Being a dad is hard. It's high stakes. It takes a toll on our self-worth, mental health, and can be lonely. But why would we ever want to do something so important in isolation? Legacy Makers, a conversation for dads, is quite simply two normal dads having conversations about, you guessed it, being a dad. The highs, the lows, and the learnings along the way. We are four dads. We want to remedy the deficiency we see in community for dads, and we want to ruthlessly encourage dads on their journey to build lasting legacy for the faces they love the most.
So Eric, as we're recording this episode, we're like 10 days out, I think, from your 40th birthday. Got to go to a birthday party at your house, which is a lot of fun.
No, I am 40 years old in 10 days-ish as of right now.
I won't mention in explicit terms the shirt that one of your brothers was wearing there, but hopefully people can check that out about being 40. By the time this podcast comes out, I will have turned 40. And I think, to be honest with you, I'm struggling with it a little bit.
Yep.
We talked about it this morning. I had a mentor give me a book called Halftime when I was I think 27. I don't want to read this book. I'm not at halftime. So I've had the book for 13 years. I picked it up a couple weeks ago after my wife has told me multiple times she thinks I'm having a midlife crisis. We may just call this the midlife crisis episode. Yeah. And this book speaks so squarely to so many of the things that I've been feeling. And let me just hit you with one. This is a quote from the book. Writer and director Norman Corwin, who's now in his 90s, recalled his transition into middle age in the book, The Ageless Spirit. Here's his quote. I remember now that the toughest birthday I ever faced was my 40th. It was a big symbol because it said goodbye, goodbye, goodbye to youth. Now, he gets positive here, but we're going to come back to the negative for a second. He said, I think when one has passed through that age, it's like breaking the sound barrier. And he goes on to say how you can leverage this, but man, that resonated with me. This idea of saying goodbye, goodbye, goodbye to youth. So much of my identity over the last 15 years has been wrapped up in being the young guy.
Yeah, not only one goodbye, he had three goodbyes to youth there. That's quite, it hits you. I thought I was doing better with 40 until now, because now we have to really reopen some wounds, and you're trying to get ahead of your birthday in a couple weeks. But I agree, man. It was a weird one for me too. Not much has changed in the 10 days that I've just hit this number, but it's just a weird number. I don't know. That's what it was for me. And I agree with you. A lot of my identity at work was kind of I'd kind of shrug it off. But I guess if I'm really honest with myself, he's the youngest at this, or he's the youngest at the table kind of thing. And it's probably the humbling, I guess, is probably a good thing, but it is. It's a weird number, man. It took me. I'm good with it. It just took me a while, and I knew I was going to have a challenge with this. And
so let's talk about what it looks like for being a dad, because we've mentioned in another episode this idea of prioritizing yourself. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't mean just focusing on yourself, but if I guess the question is how I'm approaching this. Is my midlife approach affecting my relationship with my wife and my kids? I'd say it has, because I haven't gone out and done the midlife crisis things. I'm not, buying a certain new car and trying to go do all these things, but there has been a little bit of this feeling of discontent, and it affects that. And you gave me a statistic earlier. You was like, I think you asked me this question: how long does a midlife crisis last? Yeah. And we Googled it.
We did.
Okay. So this is an official Kentucky Counseling Center, I think, is where this statistic comes from. They say that the average midlife crisis for a lady, a girl, a mom, whatever, is 2 to 5 years. How long did they say it was for a dad?
3 to 10.
3 to 10 years. Okay, that's depressing.
It is depressing.
That is depressing. So your 10 days, you got about 2 years and 55 days, 350 whatever that days is left.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about this. Why? Let's just, this idea of that. What percentage of time, if you think about the amount of time we have with our kids, let's just say we only have 3 years that we live in this state of crisis.
Yeah.
How much time is that?
Yeah. So, let's just take the years that you have the most influence. You never stop being a dad, but when they're under your house, certainly
0 to 18?
0 to 18. So you're talking 17, 18% of the most influential years in your child's life. And listen, crisis doesn't have to be like a full-blown crisis. It could just be like, hey, I'm wrestling with this thing. So to your point, yeah, like it does impact the family because you're insular. You're thinking about you. You're thinking about your feelings. You're thinking about this challenge and me. And when you're thinking about me, who are you not thinking about? Your family. So if 18% of the formative years where your child's in your house, 18% of that time you're completely kind of consumed with me, you're not making the impact that you want to make.
Yeah. So just to be really clear, we are not just having this conversation because we're both 40-ish, about to be 40. We're having this because it affects our ability to be the dads that we want to be.
Absolutely.
And so I think the question that I want us to tackle is, because look, there are going to be guys listening to this that are 25, that this feels like far away. They could be 50. You could be at different stages, but if you go through a crisis, whether it's a midlife one, by the way, the crisis says a time when a difficult or important decision must be made. When we face those decisions, what are we going to do with that?
Yeah.
And how do we do it? And I think we've talked about it. Feels like there are 3 potential paths that we can take when we're experiencing a crisis, like turning 40.
Yeah.
Why don't you hit the first one?
Yeah. So the first path or response is this kind of you show up in a very discontent way, right? So you're discontent. It's not a productive response. And it can manifest in a few ways. Some of the things we've talked about, you're absent, right? You can discontent can make you disconnect, be completely absent. You could be present in a room, but your mind's elsewhere. It's, oh my gosh, what's going on? I'm not feeling it. This isn't what I want to do anymore. That's really unproductive because again, you're not maximizing it. For some people, it could drive anxiety because now you're worrying about the future. You're worrying about something that has not yet occurred. And I haven't done this yet. I need to go achieve these things or I need to whatever. And now you're anxious.
Yep.
The other thing I think about it, the discontent can drive anger and you're going to have a short fuse and you're not going to be able to communicate effectively with your spouse and kids. So I think that is a real challenge if this is the path you choose. And I think it's a real normal path for when you go through a season like this.
I think it is. And everybody is going to show up differently than that.
Yeah.
There are some that it's going to be the anger. I can see mine being more on the absent or anxious side, and not absent physically.
Yeah.
But I'm physically there, but I'm mentally and emotionally not there because I'm thinking about these things, or I should be doing this, or I should have accomplished this. And I feel that discontent. I have had multiple conversations with Laura in the last few weeks where we've been talking about something, and it's just, I think for the first time in my life, I'm feeling like, well, I feel successful at work. I feel like our marriage is good. I feel like things are good with my kids. So if all of those things look good and are good, why do I feel discontent?
Yeah.
So that is a potential path that we can take. Now, I will tell you, it's probably the one I've leaned in the most, but I think the second path that people take, which may even be more toxic than the first of discontent, is this drive to achieve.
Yeah.
I mean, they decide that they feel like the hourglass is turned over, the sand is going through quicker than it was ever going through before, and they put themselves into high gear, and it may be high gear at work, it may be working out, it may be they are going to go all in on trying to achieve and accomplish more things. Yeah.
We're describing these feelings, and it's almost like, I think we're talking about, it's almost like you're acting as a toddler, right? Like it's this completely insular. It's either I'm angry, right? I'm frustrated, I'm concerned and anxious, and I'm, whining, almost this like whining kind of thing, or hey, I'm so focused on this other thing, like one track mind. You know, like one of my girls, like if she has something in her mind, it is nonstop. It does not matter. I got to figure out how, but like that's what she will talk about until it occurs. She's going to be a fantastic negotiator.
Is this Brittany or one of your daughters?
No. Hey, Brittany, I think she, yeah, it's a good question. I didn't clarify. This is Evelyn, but yeah, no, I think you're right. It's, you know, and you've seen this with now George playing sports. I mean, and I've seen it. I've got to resist the urge. You see these, you know, dads or parents sometimes that are just like just completely trying to live through their children, right?
And, you know, the crisis we're talking about is the one approaching midlife. For some people, it may be the loss of a parent. Mm-hmm. It may feel like I got a couple friends who were on the track to be professional athletes. And when that dream ended, felt like they were in crisis, the thing they'd worked for all their life. And so option one is we become discontent. Option two is we go into this drive for achievement. I like this idea of option three, which is not as rosy as we may think, but it's about being constructively discontent. So this doesn't mean like, oh, now all of a sudden I'm just happy. It just, how do you turn that discontent into something productive and constructive?
Yeah. And I would just say to anyone listening, this is the type of response that is going to be the most productive in any challenge you go through, whether it's a dad in your marriage, at work. Like I want people that work with me and work for me to have, this is a really beautiful skill, to be constructively discontent. We all can picture faces of people that you just like, they're like vampires. Like something's wrong. This is wrong. We got to fix it. But they don't have any solutions, right? So being constructively discontent, you take the power back, whether you really do or not, in your mind as like you feel like you're in control, whereas this is not happening to me, but I get to have a say in what's going to happen. And I think we have to decide how we're going to handle these feelings. Again, we're talking about, you know, air quotes, a midlife crisis, but when we have tough things happen to us, you get to make a decision on how you then are going to react.
Let's talk about what that looks like. Because, by the way, for how I show up with my kids, that's important, but also for what I model for them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to model for them every time they hit a crisis or a roadblock that they become angry or anxious or absent, or they, you know, just think they're going to accomplish it just through achievement. I want them to be constructively discontent. So how do we do that? I'm going to hit you with a couple.
Yeah.
That one, I think we do have to remind ourselves of what's true. You know, for me at this stage, just reminding myself that, you know, a lot of times people that have started really successful businesses have done it in their 40s and 50s, that look through the right lens. That's a great opportunity. Most people's highest earning years are their 40s and their 50s. So I do need to remind myself, like, life is not over at 40.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one to remind.
Yeah. Like for me, I think also, I don't want to steal your quote, but right, how you view things is how you do things. So talk to us a little bit about that, because this goes with what you're saying.
You have to change your perspective. And I can tell you, it's easier to do in other environments than this one. But I loved this idea. You know, perspective can sound like self-helpy a little bit. Like, just change your perspective, change your life. But perspective is the only thing in the world that can transform the results we get without altering a single element of our environment. What does that mean? You're not going to change the crisis you're in. Like I'm not going to turn back time. I'm not going to all of a sudden be younger. I'm not going to have all of a sudden achieved more. None of that's going to change. But if I can change my perspective, when how I view things changes how I do things, I can change the results just by changing their perspective. By the way, there's this verse in Proverbs that says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So the idea is the way that you think about things becomes how you are in life.
Yeah.
So we've got to change our perspective and our thinking.
I love it. One of the things that I've been thinking a lot about, and it actually triggered when you read that definition again, like the choice, I think you said, on a crisis, definition of a crisis.
Oh, yeah. A definition of a crisis, a time when a difficult or important decision must be made.
So here's what I take from that. Be decisive. A crisis is not necessary. In my mind, crisis, and we read the stats, can be 3 to 10 years for guys or whatever that is. Who knows if that's accurate? We're going to go with that. It's only prolonged like that if you don't decide and act. So you get to determine if you're in a season like this. Now, I got it. You lose a loved one, you go through. I'm not minimizing any of that, but at some point, a decision has to be made on how you want to handle this quote crisis.
Yeah.
And you got to be cognizant of that. And you also have to be cognizant of that. If you're listening to this, you likely have a child within that 0 to 18-year-old window. These are your legacy making years. Does that mean if your child is 22 and you're, just starting now and you can always, it's never too late to do the right thing. So don't be discouraged in that, but these are your legacy making years. And if you're still so caught up in this quote crisis and you can't make a decision on how you're going to handle and get through that, you are robbing your children and then you're robbing yourself, man. Like take it out of being a dad. Like you're wasting time. It's not a dress rehearsal here.
Man, that's good. Talked about the need to prioritize yourself, to focus on yourself a little bit. I think we've got to hold that intention with focusing on this legacy as well. That like you've got to focus on you and also realize it's not about you.
That's right.
And both of those, I've got to take care of myself, not because I'm obsessed with myself, but because I want to be the best I can for my kids. And I love what you said. This is a legacy making opportunity. So I don't know how I'm going to handle my crisis. What I know that I want to do is I don't want to just be discontent. I don't want to flip into this drive to achieve, but I'm going to work to be constructively discontent, to take the steps to make this the best that I can. And hopefully, man, I hope that I'm giving my kids a picture of what they should do when they enter these seasons of life.
That's exactly right. And I'll close with this thought too. Focusing on yourself is vital, but when it continues to be a focus on yourself for selfish reasons, or you quickly can become a victim. You focus on yourself so then you can make an impact on others. And that's what we have to remind ourselves of, because what the world will tell you, what our ego will tell us is this whole thing, this experience that I'm living is about extraction. It's about me extracting everything. That's what you're being told. Like, I got to grab everything for myself. It's all about me. And you have to continue to push through that, because it's not an extraction. You're injecting into others. So you got to focus on you to make this decision on what you want to go this season of life to be. So then you can do better for others, for your family, for your spouse. So 40 is the new whatever age you want it to be, man. Let's go. I've been here 10 days. I love it. You're going to love it.
I think it's a good reminder. We need to do it. We're going to make this next year, next 5 years, the next 10 years the best, but not just because of what you're saying, not because we're just going to try to extract for us, but we want to create a legacy for our kids. And that's going to be what's going to matter most. So really good stuff. We'll check in a year and see how we're doing.
Yes, good idea.
Thanks for listening to Legacy Makers with Kevin Scott and Eric Blumenthal. Make sure you download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
This podcast is a production of BG Ad Group. All rights reserved.